Welcome everybody to the Think Tank 2012. The topic today is 20 years of Top 500, and this part is the vendor panel, and there are three persons from major vendors that were so kind to make some time free and join me in this discussion. It's Pascal Barbolosi from Mullen. First person. The second person is Peter Ungaro from Cray, and the person opposite to me is Don Bryce from IBM. So, welcome. So, the topic is 20 years of Top 500. Of course, we can start 20 years ago when Professor Moyer started his Top 500 with the Lindbach benchmark and discuss vector processors and things like that. But I think we really should start today with the Top 500. So I would be very interested in what does the Top 500 today mean for your company? How do you use it? And do you think it's useful for your business? And how see your customers to see that? So, Pascal, let's start with you.
Okay, so to me, Top 500 is much more than a list and a benchmark, because it gives, in fact, visibility on how the market is going in terms of region, in terms of country, in terms of vendor, of architecture, of sites. So it is visibility. It is also an easy way to forecast the need for performance in the future. It's proven to be quite accurate. And so it is, at one point, a useful tool to plan for R&D spendings. And also, I have to say that it is a tool for politicians. And for that, it is important because, and we have seen that with the price initiative, for example. Europe was late, and because of these trends, and the Top 500 and the list was explicitly used in many presentations, it shows how Europe was late. And then it was a mean of allowing budgets for Europe. And we see how price is efficient for that. So again, it's much more than a list, and I think it has to continue. Whatever benchmark we use, we know that it's not perfect. The Lindbach is not representing the application performance or the overall architecture of the system, but so what? I mean, we have something, and nothing is perfect.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think that's exactly the way that we look at the list. I think the list is one of the best ways to look at, especially the high end of the market overall, and see how it evolves, because that market evolves over a period of time, a period of years. It moves at a different pace than the next 5,000 machines below that. And so from that perspective, I think, especially region by region, I think it really gives a good view of what's happening. It's ways to spot trends going on or shifts while you can, as a vendor, can still react and have time to react to it. For us, particularly at Cray, we're building systems that are, at the largest scale. And so I would say, we really focus on, I would say, the top half of the list or the top 100 of the list rather than even the top 500. And so from that perspective, too, it's a very manageable way to look at the market, to kind of characterize the market, and to see the market from that perspective. I think it does have good value from a political side or from just people really trying to understand the world of supercomputing. While I think we all probably agree, it's the metric is arbitrary. It is better than peak performance for sure. Not really the reason that I think most people buy supercomputers. If people buy supercomputers only because of a top 500 number, that's a little silly, I think, and not sustainable. But I do think it's a good way to look at the market overall, and that's how it's been the most value at Cray.
Right, and I would agree with that too. I think the top 500 is a very interesting way to spot trends in things like interconnect and in memory and in core sizes, right? And Eric shows us the graphs every show, and we see what's changing. And I think it's a very good way to see what technologies are in, which ones are evolving, where markets might be opening up for other people to get into various pieces of the technology. In terms of the actual customer buying, the top 500 is always a very interesting number for, I think, the funding agencies to generate interest. Almost all of the major acquisitions, though, have their own benchmarks for all the reasons that we've talked about, right? The impact shows one thing, but it usually doesn't show enough about the general overall use of the machine, and so the customers put together their own set of benchmarks for the procurement. But the impact thing is something we can all agree to look at together. The other ones are so diverse you can't really compare machines using those. And it is a way for the non-technical people to at least rank something and understand something about the growth, right? There was a whole exascale initiative with an endpoint date because you could extrapolate on this top 500, and funding models were put in place worldwide based on tracking that top 500 number. So I think it serves a lot of purpose there, and it's a way to look for innovation.
Okay, thank you. So when I summarize, politicians and everybody outside the supercomputing community looks at the top 500, and it gives us a way as a community to talk to them. I think that's the summary. Right. But of course, customers look at their own benchmarks and their own applications before they decide to buy something. I think that's a nice summary. So we had 20 years already of top 500, which gives all these nice graphs and analysis. What will the top 500 look like in 20 years from now? Because I think it's already remarkable that it holds out for 20 years. I mean, the industry is changing, machines are changing, and the top 500 still keep on running. So will it still be there in 20 years from now? And will it look the same, or will it at last then be something different or not? Let's start.
Right, so in terms of its utility as a way to compare things and to get funding, I think we will have a top 500. What the actual metric is that we use, I think, will certainly evolve. One of the biggest changes I expect to see over the next 20 years is a change from what I have seen right over the list now. It's been deterministic floating point efficiency on a matrix problem. And there's a fixed answer, and you know you have the right answer. When we look at this explosion of data and what computers are going to be used for, I think the modeling physics that we use now will still exist, but it'll be a much smaller portion of what people do. And you'll probably use it to get some statistical feel for what decision you might make and what the outcome might be. So the results that people will use most of the time will not be a single number. It will be some feel for what happens when I make this change in the way I view the world, right? And I think that becomes much more pervasive and much more important in what it does. It becomes harder to try to measure, so we'll have to think about how you do that. I'm sure it will not be just a deterministic number, but you need a ranking, and you need a way to look at the progress of what technology is doing, what users are doing, and how the world is treating computers.
Yeah, I would say I really hope it's around in 20 years, because I think it does give us this great view of the market overall. And I think that's extraordinarily important for vendors, for users, for people that fund it, for countries that want to use supercomputing to push themselves in competing on a worldwide economy. So I do think that it's going to be around, and I think it will be still very successful. I do think, just like it's evolved though over the past, especially the last 5 or 10 years, of having more information within each system, I hope it continues to evolve in that way. Some of the ways that Don just said, but just a lot of different opportunities to look at machines in more and more different ways. But I do think that in its overall simplicity of a number, I think there's a lot of power in that. And I think that it's not, because I don't believe people are using it as a way to buy machines, I think that it's fine, because it has its impact in certain areas and not in others. And so from that perspective, I just really hope that there becomes more and more information across each of these machines so we can continue to look at machines in different ways, do different cuts through the data, and more analysis overall.
Okay, so, as per my colleague, I do sincerely hope that Top 500 will continue for a long time, and at least 20 years. And that in 20 years, with the money we are all spending in technologies, we will continue to provide systems that will allow us to increase, at one point, I'm not afraid to say that, the wellness of the human being, providing new drugs, more safe cars and planes, and also more jobs. Yeah. We have to tell that. Yeah. And in the case of Bull, I mean, 20 years back, I mean, we were not in the top 500 because we started in 2006 with the first system, the one from CEA, Terra 10. And in 6 years, we have now 16 systems. So we are at par with our colleagues from SGI. So 16 is not a lot. In 500, my colleagues from IBM have hundreds of systems. So my hope is that with the development we will make in the future, maybe we will be on par with Spit. maybe not, but maybe we will do hybrid systems together. But well, I want to wish long life to Top 500 and hopefully Lean Pack as well, which is useful.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I think in the conclusion, at least for this question, so it's good to have a top 500. It should develop so that you can make cuts through it, so that you can say, well, we are the best in Europe, we are the best in the US, we are the best in this segment, etc., and still have one number that can be used. The next question that I have is that how are you, and we only have a few minutes left, so how are you intending to make sure with your technology that you are in 20 years still on the top 500? So very short about the technology developments that you have, and let's start now.
Okay. From our perspective, we don't build machines to run the fastest Lean Pack. I mean, so that's clearly not our focus as we build machines. What we want to do is build machines that have very high sustained performance in scientific and engineering applications and a breadth of application areas across the way. I think I could speak for all of us saying I think all companies are really trying to push that technology as we go forward, trying to keep a balance of evolutionary technologies and revolutionary options as we go forward, because we need to make sure that we bring applications and the users with us as we keep on moving through these various technology shifts that are going to take place over the next 20 years. And from Cray's perspective, our view is that one size doesn't fit all. And so we have a concept that we call adaptive supercomputing, which says that we'll build a single common infrastructure and then put different processing elements into that infrastructure in order to take advantage of all these different applications.
Okay, thanks. Can we just, because we're running out of time, can you just comment on your plans?
I mean, I can only agree with what Pete said. I mean, there is no one system that will fit all, so the hybrid computing and maybe a more agnostic platform is key. So I will not comment on the development we are doing for 2015 and all, but just to give you one important thing in my team is that we put a strong focus in what we call the application and performance team, where we have only scientists and application experts. And on top of course, some application like Lean Pack, we really focus on the user application and try to define the best architecture for the user application. So all kinds.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I mean, we have a very large research group, and I'm sure we'll be doing research for the next 20 years to accelerate computing. But accessibility of the computing to the world is really the next challenge. We can keep building the machines, but people from all over have to learn how to get used to them and make use of them and get some value out of what they've seen.
Okay, thank you. I would love to continue the discussion, but I think we have to finish this part of the think tank on the top 500. And I would like to thank you, to thank the